The problem that we have as Catholics and our liturgical art is that people in general come to liturgical art as artists rather than liturgists.
Okay.
So that's the first problem. Secondly, it's all about your personal faith. And thirdly, anybody can do art. It's not a skill. It's a personal hobby. It's a devotional thing. So therefore, anything goes. It's all painted with prayer. I hate it when everybody says, "Oh, every brush stroke is is painted with prayer." What the heck does that mean? And it's the same thing when people sort of use holy water. And there's nothing wrong in using holy water, but that's not the core of what makes it good liturgical art. And so I think there's so much ignorance, just a big vacuum of knowledge, which is filled with a secular vision of what art is about. So it's art with a religious subject, painted with a certain sentimentality or originality. So, I really like so-and-so's work. That it's very challenging, or it's very interesting, or it's very, in a sensual way, beautiful. The face of the Virgin Mary is very sweet, or it's very lifelike, or it's very dramatic in that sort of Caravaggio sense. I think those are very good didactic. It's a good teaching method, but that's not the same as the liminal image. And what we have lost confidence in the West in general, but it's within Catholicism certainly, is really understanding how and what a liminal image is. An image that actually is not a window into heaven, but a door from heaven. So if it's a window into heaven, it's just what I'm imagining. And so I paint my icon and in the way that I want, and it shows what I see. But if it's a door from heaven, it has to in some way embody what heaven is. And so it's more about what is being revealed than about what I see and express. It's in the same way that I think there's one of the biggest mistakes in modern Catholic history is when they messed around with the direction that the priest stands at the altar.
Oh, okay.
Regardless of whether it's the ritual that you use, Novus Ordo or Tridentine or whatever, that's not such important for me. But I think that we did a really, really big mistake by turning everything inwards. So,
okay, right. Yeah.
It's humanistics. It's suddenly focused on the priest and the people,
Right.
not on the priest with the people leading them to God. It's self-referencing. And I know it was done with very good intentions, but I think it was really, really a fundamental mistake that put humanism above transfiguration. And with that, as a result, is reflected in the sort of art that you see in the Catholic Church, most of which won't last.
Like the Vatican? Like there's is it the Wednesday audience?
Mm-hmm.
Christ is raising from something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
horrifying.
it is what it is. And, Rome is full of all sorts of crazy art with a religious theme. But I think there's a difference what you have, which is religious art, say, for example, in an audience hall, to what you have around the altar. Because if Christ is truly present, you don't want an image to replace that presence, but to reveal that presence. Otherwise, you're denying the real presence. So, for example, if you have a didactic image, an image which is trying to bring you back to when Jesus was alive in Galilee in a naturalistic way, let's imagine ourselves as you would in a Jesuit meditation, at Jesus' feet.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Jesus is there now. So, okay, there's a place for the memory, but not during the liturgy.
Okay, because it's happening right there.
Exactly. It's like my mum has a photograph of me on the sideboard. If I'm visiting my mum and she's paying more attention to the photograph than to me, there's something wrong. It's like that's there because when you aren't, or as a memory that you all share, and it's just something in the background. But when I'm not there, that suddenly has a greater role, a greater importance, a greater resonance. And especially if somebody's dead, it's the last connection with them. But to say that then, the person's actually in the room or in the house, maybe they're not actually in that room, but they're in the next room or whatever, and the photograph is the thing, that's weird. So I think there's this sort of conversation that Catholics don't even begin to have. I've never heard anybody talk in this way. It's just not a conversation that Catholics have. There's a lot of very, very, very educated, profoundly, inspiring art historians who are Catholic priests, or, people who are great architects and doing all sorts of stuff, but they don't talk in this way. And it's like we've lost the vocabulary of a transcendental vision of our world, to the hereafter, to the New Jerusalem.